everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now since school is approaching, I thought I would bring you guys like a back to school organization video. This is just going to be a short video with some organizational tips, and I'm just going to show you some of my planners and my notebooks from when I was at school. You may find some of it useful, you may find none of it useful, but I'll give it a go for you guys. So what I'm going to start off talking about is my planner. Now, unfortunately, my planner did get ruined in some water damage, but we did manage to salvage it and dry it out. Our school sells special kind of planners with like the school logo and things like this on it, but I always used my own one. This was just it. Now, this was a 2012-2013 because that was my final year at school. What I would do is along the top I would have these plastic kind of tabs. And on each of these tabs I have planner, timetable, and then I would just have one to mark the day that I'm on. So this was my year by like month view planner, and so I would have it color coded. So pink was for school things, orange was for social things, and yellow were for like important reminders like birthdays. So I would write them all in here. So I have things like careers meeting, math test, girls active meeting, biology field trip, trip to Sligo, my birthday, all them kind of things would go in here. And as you can see, it's a little bit messy. I have my exams penciled in. Then I used to have a bunch of sticky notes stuck on this page, just so that if there was something I needed to remember but I didn't want to write it in here just yet, I could quickly scribble it down here, and when I flick to my planner page I'd be like, oh yes, I need to remember to, you know, confirm them plans or whatever. And then I would just have the little planner thing stuck on the page that I'm using currently. So I was obviously doing my exams, so that was the page I would use. Then I have my timetable. This was just, I would have just used this for my classes. So I have my little tab up here for my timetable, and on this page is where I kept my class organization, so it would have the times and what class I would have and when. I didn't really use this very much since I would have had my timetable kind of on one of my notebooks or something like that, but it was always kind of handy to have when I was flicking at homework. I could see when the homework is due for the next class. I then also would always write down dates that I would have classes, tests in classes, and what grade I got. So for example, there in October I did a test on digestion. I wrote that down, that I actually studied for this test and that I got 84% on it. So then that was kind of a good way of reviewing what worked for me and what didn't work for me in terms of study. I would write down little notes beside things like whether I just read through something or I did a practice paper or whatever, and then I could see by the D- that that didn't work and that I could reevaluate that test and give it a better go doing something different. This would be like my week view for my planner. So on top of the days like your Monday, Tuesday, things like that, in red I would have written things like test for respiration, birthday, things like that, art project due, and then I would always have things, I've no idea, but I had a meeting that day. I would then have used these little plastic kind of tabs to remind me when I would get homework. So for example here, this one says art page 23 due for Wednesday 10th, and on that it says it was set on the 3rd of October, so I can go back to the 3rd of October and see that I had my art homework set for that day. I would also put sticky notes in it to remember things, so I needed to buy graph paper for my math book. I'd put a wee sticky note on it to help me remember things. I would always write kind of little to-do lists and keep them in there, so like there was things that I wanted to print for my art project, so I decided I'd make a list. Then next time I was near a computer I could just print them off. In the little notes section down at the bottom, I would always write things that I wanted to work on and study. Here in Ireland we have copies of the exam papers, so before your exams you would get these copies of all the exam papers for like the last like 10 years or something, and you can go through and practice them. So I would always just write down if I wanted to practice a paper. So this is coming up to Halloween, so I wrote down a list of questions for English and history that I really wanted to practice to work on. Now that was all that I would really use this planner for, because it was for school. Of course I would have my social events and things like that in, so I could work my homework around. This does look a lot different to the planner that I'm using now, since I'm no longer in school. If you want to see a video on my current planner, feel free to comment down below and tell me, and I will certainly show you. I understand from watching a couple of these videos by American girls that in America you get a overview of what you're going to be studying that year. Here in Ireland we kind of get an overview for what we'll be studying for our exam. So if your exam is 3 years long, you'll get an overview of the 3 years for what you'll finally need to know for that exam. Or for your leaving cert, you will get an overview of what you need to know in the 2 years for your final exam. So teachers, you can get these off your teachers, you can get them out of your exam papers, or you can get them online from like school.ie. But they are just literally, this one is for Irish ordinary level. From when I did my paper, they're different now. So it literally has a checklist of everything that you need to know. This one's a couple pages long. I also have one here for my biology, for my English, and for my social sciences. So these were really useful when it came to trying to make up a study planner. I could look at this and I could think, okay, I don't really know enough about the stories that I'm going to write about, so I need to work on that, and I need to work on my shrine pictures, especially number 3 and number 7. So this was a really good reference to have, and I would always keep that inside my folder. Is what I'm talking about when it comes to folders, was for every single subject I would have a little ring binder like this. For subjects like English and math, I had the much bigger ring binders. So inside my ring binder, hopefully nothing will fall out, it was literally just like this. I would have kept on the inside cover, I would have put in my timetable, whether it's for this class or whether it's for the studying that I'm doing for that class. I would always just keep it in there and keep a note of things like homework that's due. As my exams came up, I did take all them things out just to kind of stop the distractions. But inside I have these dividers. Now these were just paper ones, and I reinforced them with masking tape so that they wouldn't come out. But nowadays you can get these plastic, you can write on them with Sharpies and things, but these did the job. Now I split my folders up in terms of what you did for that subject, what you needed to know. So for Irish, I needed to know my prose and poetry, I needed to know my comprehensions and my essays, and then I needed to do my oral work. So that was what I split my 3 things into, just so that it would make it easier when it came to flicking back through my folder. I could easily find things. Oh, I would always have the little plastic tabs that I had in my journal. I would always keep some of them in the backs of I don't have one in here, but on the kind of towards the end of the book, I would put one of them in, and it would be for my homework. So I would just kind of stick in, if I had written some essays or something, I would just stick the little tab in, and then I could be flick back to my homework, and then I'd be able to see what homework I had done, what homework I didn't do, what homework I could have done better on, things like that. Also in the backs of my folders, I would always keep a little kind of pocket. Now I have made these up myself. You can buy these kind of envelope things, and then I had just put in a colour that kind of went well with my pink folder in, just to kind of hold on to everything. Now often in class you would get given handouts, and you get given sheets, or if you're just scribbling something down really quick, you don't have time to put it into the ring binder nice and neatly. So what I would do then was I would be able to just slot it into this little pocket at the back. Later on, when I had a better time, I could, organize everything again. Now, this was just a breakdown for the subjects that I had worked on. So I had split my papers up, my exam up, into, there's 2 papers for Irish, so I had my paper 1, my paper 2. I had everything on it and the points, the marks that you could get for it. So you could get 100 marks for your reading comprehensions, 50 marks for your prose, things like that. So I would know how much I would need to work for to get the most points that I could get on my questions. And then I would look at what I could write. Things like on my composition, I could write about my blogs, my stories, letters, emails, things like that. So just by breaking it down and being able to physically look at it, it made studying a lot easier. If you would like a more in-depth video on how I did do my studying for the Irish system, I would more than happily show you guys. I can do it for Junior Cert, I can do it for Leaving Cert. You can just comment below and tell me. Inside each of them folders, I would have kept a refill pad, whether it was literally just one like this, where it flipped upwards, or whether it was a very pretty book that opened outwards. I always did all my work on refill pads and stored them in my folders. Sometimes my teachers would be like, copybook, 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 but when it comes to your exams, you will be writing on A4 foolscap paper. So if you're used to writing on a little small copybook piece of paper, and then you go into an exam and suddenly you've got to write on these big scary pieces of paper, it can be quite daunting and off-putting. So I was just generally practicing for exams by filling up as much of this piece of paper as I possibly could. I can do a more in-depth video on how I studied for school, but for now I can just show you some of my timetables and breakdowns of exam papers. I would have started out by breaking down how long I had left until school. Our teachers gave these to us and then I kind of made my own one up on my computer. So, you know, it would have gone like, so here we had 7 weeks until our exam week. So that gave you a chance to kind of look at each day and then your weekend on how much time you had to study. To make this even easier, then I would have done up like an hourly schedule going from 7 AM to 10 o'clock at night, and that gave me a chance to see, okay, between 6 and 7 o'clock I might have had a class outside of school, whether it was a sport or something. I could block that out for whatever nights that was on, and I knew that I couldn't study for that hour, so I could work around that. That was kind of a really good way to see how much time I could use. Also by figuring out how much time I could actually study for. Sometimes you can study for an hour, sometimes you can only do 10 minutes, and I must admit I had a really short attention span, so even trying to make out a timetable really bored me, so studying was a little bit difficult, but I kind of got the hang of it. So guys, that is everything I have to share with you in terms of organising my diaries and my notebooks. I really hope you found this in some way useful coming with back to school, and if you guys would like to see a video on studying, then I will quite happily show you that. Do just comment down below or whatever. So that is all for me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Your fake bob finished.